First off, I just want to say hello, everyone. Welcome to Lyceum's September online talk. For those that don't know me, my name is Mai Nguyen, and I work with Lyceum to support various events. And we launched this series of online events because of COVID and why we're all stuck at home and not able to meet live. We used to do a lot of live events, but it continue on, and we feel with COVID or not, this is a great platform for us to be able to share knowledge and empower one another. Once again, thank you so much for taking your time to attend. I know it's the beginning for a lot of our parents, back to school time, so it can be busy, but I believe this is also the reason why we should all be in this specific talk today, because it will really help all of us. Now, before we get to that, I want to introduce the founder of Lyceum Global, which is Dr. Lan. She's part of the reason why we started this whole series of talks as well. So at this point, I want to say welcome, Dr. Lan, and if you can share a little bit about our speaker and what's next.
Okay. Thank you, Mai, and thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Lyceum online series during the social distancing. We have a topic that really, I think it's very important for all, not just the parents, but also for the children themselves. When we talked about emotions and talking about the pandemic, how many of you that feel so stressed already? With all the kids going back to school and handling that both either mix or, virtual, some like on-site or all the on-site with the worries about the kid being infected or vice versa. So emotions are something that we cannot live without, right? So managing emotions is one of the key skill sets to help a person to be successful, and it can be started as you can see when Dr. Skelton talked about that, can start at a very early age. So the topic today is raising emotional intelligence children, and we're very blessed because we have an expert in the house, Dr. Renea Skelton. She's a colleague of me. Both of us met at an international conference on emotional intelligence, and we sort of like connected afterward. And she's a leadership communication consultant, emotional intelligence coach, and also a master trainer for something called True Colors. And she had 20 years of experience under her belt in leadership development consulting. And she's also a 22-year Air Force veteran. Thank you, Renea, for your service. And now she, as young as she looks, she already eligible for retirement. and in the first couple, is that the first year or second year of retirement? I forgot. The 2000, just like this year, right? Whatever it is, she already produced 3 awesome books, children book, The Adventure of Henry the Hedgehog, the first, the second, the third, and it's a part of series of emotional intelligence for children. And later on, we will have the chance to ask Renea about this. But I'm so excited to welcome you to the event today, Doctor. So please join me to give a round of applause to Dr. Renea Skelton. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all clapping for myself. Obviously, I hope everyone's in the right place. It's all about developing emotional intelligence in children because we need it, they need it, everyone needs it. And so I provided this slide because I know some of you with the goal personality, you love structure and you want to see what am I going to learn today. So we're going to talk about the importance of emotional intelligence in children, the barriers to developing it, and I'm going to give you a little peek under the tent, us, and then how to nurture the growth in emotional intelligence, and then I want to open up with open discussion. So with that being said, when I'm not the sage on the stage, this is your presentation, not mine. So if I say something that you want to either challenge or you have a question about it or you want more information or even if you're going through something right now with your child that hits home when I say something, please ask in the chat or raise your hand. I want to have that collaborative conversation because it's, like I said, I'm not the sage on the stage. This is for you. So emotional intelligence, everyone has probably heard it, right? Emotional intelligence, emotional intelligence. It's so different from IQ. I always say when I do leadership consulting, IQ will get you in the door of your job. They'll hire you because of your IQ, but they'll fire you because of your lack of EI, your emotional intelligence. And a lot of people don't understand that. And so emotional intelligence is basically managing your emotions, managing and regulating your emotions and identifying them, as well as in other people. And I did not say control. It is not about controlling your emotions because your emotions are your emotions. And we have over 40,000 different emotions that surge through our body. Now, I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to put this disclaimer out there. 40,000 different emotions, you're not going to experience them all at once. And if you do, you probably need to seek medical attention. So you're going to obviously get a surge of emotions daily. So with that being said, it's so important. And I thought about how important it is now during COVID with emotional intelligence, because think about this. As adults, when we become adults and we have these jobs and we're CEOs of companies or we're working for leaders or we are the leader, we always want to increase our emotional intelligence. But why do we wait till we're adults? Why do we have to wait till we're adults? Why not start at the most primitive level, and that's from childhood on, right? So it's so important. Now, statistics have shown that people with high emotional intelligence, they are more successful in life, just like was said earlier. And that's like 53% increase. And they're happier. They're happier because they can empathize with others, they have better relationships, and they know who they are. They accept who they are. And that's amazing to me. Emotional intelligence, do not worry, especially if you're 99 years old. It doesn't even matter because you can always increase your emotional intelligence. You can always increase it. Now here on this slide, there's different elements of emotional intelligence, but for the sake of this presentation and for children, I highlighted these areas. There's self-awareness. It's obviously knowing your own emotions. There's self-regulation. Remember, I did not say control. It's regulating and managing your reactions and your emotions because you can't control your emotions. You can suppress them by trying to control them, but they're going to trigger up. They're going to trigger. And that's not even true resiliency, and I'll talk about that later. Decision making is important because you have the choices and the consequences. And if you were in my earlier presentation that I did, I think it was like a month ago, I believe. It was meeting with the chaos going on, and they had that link, but that was not a plug for me. I'm just saying. But going back there, we have 60,000 thoughts that go through our brain each day, and over half of those are judgment. Over half of those are judgment, and we're constantly making decisions based on society, how other people perceive us, and the average brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. And parents, I'm sure, if you're here, you have some kind of affiliation with children, that you can ask the child or your child, why did you do that? And they're like, I don't know why I did that, because they truly did, they reacted at the moment because their brain is not fully developed. Empathy, that's important because you want to understand the emotions of others, perspective taking, and then of course social skills. This is so important right now because some of us are only virtually schooling our children, like me right now. 4 weeks in, I'm going crazy, and I'm an emotional intelligence coach. They're testing my patience. I feel like I need a couch in my office at times and go, okay, you are at a 10, I need you at a 2 right now. But it's important because all this social distancing, even with us as parents, our social skills are somewhat lacking, right? So we want to present them with that ability to make those social connections. Now, like I said, people and humans, I say people and humans, but everyone, including children, if you have high EI, the children actually show more respect with their elders, with school, with themselves, that inner self-talk. Because remember, I told you, children with higher emotional intelligence, they actually accept them for who they are. They're more responsible. They make better decisions. They earn higher grades, and they actually have a higher rate of staying in school and graduating. So that's amazing. So why not increase it, right? As a parent, we all want the best for our children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you may be thinking to yourself, parents, right now, I don't need this because my children have high emotional intelligence, and so do I. That is amazing. I commend you. Welcome. That is amazing. But you can always increase it. And if you want to truly know if you have a highly emotional, intelligent child, there are actually 4 signs you can look for. Now, the first sign is that they're expressive. They're very expressive. They're very artistic. They love to draw, write stories about life. And when they tell you a story, they will take you there like you're experiencing it with them. It could have happened 3 years ago, and you felt like it just happened to them yesterday. And they're very detailed when they tell you stories because they're very aware. They also will imitate facial expressions. They love to imitate different facial expressions. So if you have a really young child who cannot speak yet, like fluently, and they're imitating your faces, not like a baby, you know how they do, but they will imitate your facial expressions because it shows that right there is a good marker that you also have high emotional intelligence because they're mimicking you. Another one is that they're open-minded. If you have a child who is open-minded, then they have more than likely they have high emotional intelligence. And when I say this is how you can gauge this. Watch them when they read a book or watch shows or movies on TV. Watch how they react to it. Just be still and just watch them, because that's a good gauge of their open-mindedness, and because it introduces empathy. Another one is that they're good listeners. You know, they're very good listeners. What child is a good listener, you're thinking, right? They don't listen to me at all. But these good listeners is important because I'm going in a different direction. I'm not talking about how they listen to you, because we all know that doesn't happen at majority of the time, right? Because you're the parent. Like, really? What do you know? So when I say good listeners, I'm talking about with their peers. When they go to school and their peers go up to them, like their friends, their circle, their social circle, and they go up to your child to solve their problems for them, like your child is like the resident problem solver, or the one who gets all of the issues because they're a great listener and they don't judge. That shows that your child has high emotional intelligence. Now, here's the thing though, be very careful with that, parents, because individuals with high emotional intelligence and loves that social connection with others and can empathize, they take on the feelings of that individual because they don't know how to set boundaries. And then they trigger, react, tantrum, and you're like, what is going on? And usually parents will say it's because they want attention. And parents, you are right. They want attention because they're not getting it, because they are the ones that are always helping others. So think of that the next time you have a child you know is a good listener that's constantly having these tantrums because they want attention. It's deeper than that. And the fourth one, if you think you have a high emotional intelligence child, is because they pause. They will throw a tantrum. Just because you have high emotional intelligence doesn't mean you throw tantrums. I throw tantrums at times. We see adults throw tantrums at times. You know what I mean? I'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm not saying I throw myself on the ground, start kicking and crying. I don't do that, although that would be fun. But I don't do that. But when your child, like let's say, throws a tantrum, you'll see them pause. if they can pause on their own without your help, and you'll see them like their little wheels start going in their head and they start reflecting going, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That's a sign of high emotional intelligence. It's that self-awareness piece. I hate to break it to you parents. I hate to break it to you. I'm going to say it, and I'm at fault as well, but the barrier is you. The barrier is you. Now, there are other people, but we're going to talk about you because you're closer to them. And I mean, you're raising these little mini me's of you, aren't you? So it's important to know this. Now, being unavailable, it's because you're not present. Some of you are not present. And when I say not present, that doesn't mean like being in the same area, the same room. It's talking with your child, being in the moment with them. But when you are unavailable and you say, you know, I'm busy or not right now, can we talk later or whatever, you are being dismissive to them and you're not creating a safe space for them to open up to you. And I get it. We are all busy. I do it on occasion, you know, like, hey, can we talk later? I can't, right now I'm doing this, I can't talk. But it shows them that they are not important and they are not a priority. So an easy way you can do is instead of saying that, just say, hey, I want to give you my full attention, but I can't at this moment. How about in 30 minutes, I want to give you 100%. Who's going to say no? No, I'll take 50. Can you talk to me now? No, it's not. It usually doesn't happen like that. So it's just a subtle thing right there. Being authentic, and I'm not going to talk about this right now. I'm going to talk about it a little later, but play versus learning. If your child is under 6, do not try to teach them. A lot of parents want to do this right away. Teaching, their brain doesn't work like that. It's all about exploration and imagination. That's how they're going to heighten their emotional intelligence. But we, as parents, we want to do the right thing. We want to teach. Their brain, they can't focus. I have never seen a 6-year-old or under sit there and go, okay, I'm going to sit here and you tell me what to do and I'm going to do it. If that, you're a parent of the year if that happens. So if they're under 6, just let them play. Just let them play. Research has shown that even when they play and they have imaginary friends, believe it or not, I know a lot of parents try to stifle that, but that is perspective taking. They are trying to, what they do, research has shown that imaginary friends, they put their feelings based on that imaginary friend. They project it on their imaginary friend so they don't have to confront it. But that's how they work through it. So try not to stifle that, the play. Now, if they're older than 6, that's when the 7 and beyond, that's when the control, they want to start controlling. You'll notice that's when parents, you start seeing them being a little defiant, you know, because they're trying to create those boundaries. They're understanding how it works. That from 7 on, you can start to teach them. You can start to teach them, but still don't stifle their play. A majority will still be a little play until they hit 9 or 10 years of age, if that makes sense. Now, there's the lack of empathetic listening. I know I'm talking a lot. I get it. But get this. Here's your mind's going to be blown when I tell you this. Listening is important, but get this. Listen and silent, they have the same letters. Listen and silent have the same letters. But we don't do it. No, because guess what? Our mouth hole is bigger than our ear holes. It's amazing. But no, I got 2 of them. It doesn't matter because your kids aren't even listening to you, right? So we all have emotions. We all have emotions. But when we react, when we listen to react or to respond and not understand, we are not creating a safe space for them. And guess what? This goes for our spouses too. Listen to understand, not respond or react. And the question that Dr. Phil always asks, how's that working for you? It's not. How's that working for you? A lot of parents do that backwards. They will react to their child throwing a tantrum before they check themselves first. We do it backwards as parents. We have to acknowledge our own emotions first, feel it, to heal it, and then jump in to help our child navigate through that. We want the best for our children. I'm not going to go on and on about this, but we are problem solvers. We love to fix things, right? Because we've been there, done that. We know what works. We know what doesn't work, and we come from a good place, but they don't learn. You know, the victim, villain, hero. Everybody thinks, well, I don't want to be a victim, and I don't want to be a villain, so I want to be a hero. That's equally bad. Because guess what? You're there to save the day, and they don't learn anything when you do that. So matching emotions. Parents, this can be toxic. Your kids are screaming at the top of their lungs. Then you find yourself screaming at the top of your lungs. The cat runs off, and then your husband's screaming. Things are being thrown because your son, the brother, threw a toy at the daughter, and it's just total chaos. It's cyclical and it's toxic. We cannot match the emotions, no matter what. That's why I say it has to start with us first, because they don't learn. If you tell them, go to your room, what do they learn? They learn A, mommy's mad, and B, I threw a toy and that was wrong, but everybody's reacting. So they're learning that no matter the consequence and whatever action they did, it's going to be met with a heightened emotion just like theirs. That's not teaching them anything. That's not. And it creates an absence. And when I say absence, research has shown when parents do this to their children consistently, they actually will grow up to suppress their emotions. And that's when you see those adults who were like, why are you so apathetic? Why don't you care? It's because they were always told, don't do this, don't do that, stop whining, things like that. And that's what leads me into the punishment for feeling. That stop. When you say stop your crying, what does that say? It's wrong to cry. And it's not wrong to cry. You can't change somebody's emotions. Now, whining and crying are totally different. So if you feel so inclined to say stop crying, replace it with whining. Don't say crying, say whining. But then you have to go one step further and go, because if they are younger. If they are older, you need to say, why do you think that I want you to stop whining? Why do you think? Because you're trying to create that connection, that empathy, if that makes sense. Also, as parents, we say, we sugarcoat things because we try to protect them. And I've been there many times where, and I'm sure you have as well, if you're showing any kind of emotion, like you're in the moment and you're crying, and your little son comes up and goes, Mommy, why are you crying? And you're like, I'm not crying, I'm good. Don't do that. Be real with them. And I don't want you to go, well, Mommy lost her job, and you don't want to go on and on like that. You just want to be like, yes, Mommy's crying. Mommy's crying because I'm sad. Well, why are you sad, Mommy? Well, and then you could just obviously tailor it to the age, but you can't hide that because it teaches them that they need to do the same thing because they mimic us. And going back to that stop, when you say stop hitting your sister, you can reframe that because and catch yourself in the moment, and all you have to do is say, I see that you're mad and that your toy was taken away. Let's say their toy was taken away. I see that you're mad that your toy was taken away. And that would make me mad too. You see how I just met them where they're at? Mm-hmm. And then go, but what can you do instead to show that you're mad? So you're teaching them critical reasoning and other options and letting them decide what to do. Don't parents jump in there and go, well, I think you should do this, A, B, and C. Don't do that because they're not learning anything. They may come up to you with the most ridiculous answer on the planet. And you're like, really? That is not going to work. But you say, you know what? Let's try that out. Because you want them to take ownership of it. So, in attention, like I said before, be very careful when kids throw tantrums or act out and are rude, because especially when you're trying to develop the emotional intelligence in children, you're stifling that because there's something deeper than them. They're seeking you as a safe space, but if you dismiss them, then you basically shame them. And you can be so dismissive to them. And when you punish, because kids are going to misbehave, they will. And you need to set boundaries. But first, parents, you have to identify and meet them at their emotions. Then you be firm with them. And when you're firm with them, do not make it about their identity. It shames them. When you have a kid who, when you make that as their identity, it frightens them. And they're basically, stop, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that. That shames them, and it puts them in the corner. And like I said this before, shame is the gift that others give you, and guilt is the gift you give yourself. So don't shame your children. All right, next slide, and I'll run through this because I already pretty much talked about it. But you can increase them. Guess what you can do? Play the what if game. Do this during dinner or in car rides. All you have to do is go, what would you do if? Like, what would you do if your brother hit you for no reason? I mean, you don't want to like start a fight in the car, but I mean, say something like, what would you do? So they can have that empathy. And we do this at the dinner table all the time. And it turns into a comical laugh. I mean, it really does. Like everybody starts laughing like, oh, I wouldn't do that to you. How would that make you feel? So we do that. Read books. It gives them perspective taking. Think of Charlotte's Web. Think of books like that where they can identify with something that's being, oh my gosh, mine growing up was Where the Red Fern Grows. I'm just like, oh, but it gives them perspective taking. And if you have younger children who can't read and you read to them, studies have shown that when you read with emotion, like it's like some theatrical presentation for them, it actually increases their emotional intelligence. So that's an easy way, because books right now, that's so important. Play, like I said, it releases their imagination. It allows them to be expressive. Build a fort. Build a fort with them. Take the time. How long does it take? Yes, your sheets will be used. I mean, they're sleeping on them. Why not? Build a fort. Put on a play barbershop. Now that's different. Not school or house. Play barbershop. I've done that with my son before, and his imagination, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I didn't even know he knew all that stuff. And guess what? It gives you a peek under the tent. It allows you to watch your child to see if they're truly like highly emotional intelligence or the skills that they're lacking in. If you're playing barbershop and they're brushing your hair, go, ow, 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 and see how they react. Because, they're sorry. You can see how they can empathize with you. It's a small little trick. And parents, forgive. You must forgive yourself first and then them, because you are going to fail. We all fail because we are all human. I always say, if you're going to fail better next time. And my son, he's all about, he will go onto the baseball field and he will lose a game, and he's in 3rd grade. He's 8 years old, my youngest. And he tells the team, losing's learning, people. It's okay. Losing's learning. And they're like, you're not getting a snack, Wesley. But losing's learning. But we forget that as parents. We are going to fail. We're all failing, but we're all be successful as well. And we just got to cheer each other on. And then celebrate. When your child stops and pauses, like I said before, and realizes what they did, celebrate that. But you have to tell them, and not just say, good job. You say, hey, Wesley, I just saw that you were very mad in that moment because your sister hit you. And you reacted a little bit, but then you caught yourself. I am proud of you, because you're solidifying that, you're cementing that, you're conditioning that for them. I know that's a lot of information, and everybody's like, whoo, right? Cliff notes? Not possible. But I wanted to, and I think the next slide is questions, I believe, because I want to get what's on your mind. If you have questions about certain situations that you're going through, I can probably help you, or somebody else can help you. But we're all experiencing this. We're all in this together. So does anybody have any questions whatsoever?
That was so awesome, Dr. Skelton. Thank you. Before we get a chance for everyone to answer, you're right. There's just a lot of information and a lot of things. I already picked up a few tips that I've acknowledged that I do say and I do that I can definitely improve on. I do have one question, but I also wanted to ask a little bit more about earlier. Dr. Lang mentioned about your 3 books. And so maybe we can talk a bit about that first. If you can share us a little bit more, because I have 2 young kids, one 2 years old and one is a 6-year-old son and a 2-year-old daughter. And I heard about these books that you've written, these children books, because there's not a lot of books out there that teaches about emotions. So I'm very excited to get them. Maybe you can share a little bit about that for everyone to hear.
Yes. So I've always had this dream of writing a book, and it wasn't even this book, honestly. It wasn't even about a hedgehog for some odd reason. But I wanted to write another book, which is still in the works in my head. It's not on paper yet. But with COVID, and I just saw there's just so many children out there, and some of my clients that I experienced that had all these emotions, but everybody was putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole and not addressing the true emotions of children, because they were annoying, or they were, and parents weren't equipped to deal with that because they're already stressed during COVID. Totally get it. So I decided to write about this hedgehog named Henry, and he goes on these little adventures, and he encounters his friends. There's Patrick the porcupine, Shelly the skunk, Brock the beaver. There's all these little characters throughout the book, and they all experience some sort of emotion. So the first book was about the case of the missing raspberries, and it's about anger. Henry basically thinks that somebody stole his raspberries, and he's blaming his best friend Patrick the porcupine, and he's going ballistic on him, So Patrick shows Henry how to do breathing exercises. But in this book, I also teach your child how to do it as well, and they practice with Henry. And throughout each book are questions that you can ask your child so they can create that connection and empathy with the characters. And then I have facts about the different characters throughout the book for the adults. My editor is about 70-something years old, and he's like, wow, I learned all kinds about hedgehogs and porcupines. I never knew. So, and then at the very end, the very last page, in every book, I put tips for parents, teachers, and caregivers, and counselors, how to navigate through that emotion with that child. The second book, The Watering Hole, this received an award. So did the Hiding in the Forest. But The Watering Hole is about belonging versus fitting in. It's about a skunk who tries to hide her stripes because she doesn't want to be a skunk anymore, because she gets bullied by Olivia the otter. She gets bullied by Olivia the otter. But they all end up being friends, just letting you know, giving it away. And then Hiding in the Forest is about change and fear of the unknown. And it's about Brock the beaver, who has to uproot his home and go to a new school, and he doesn't know anybody. So just FYI, Brock will make another appearance, and he will be bullying people. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. Definitely, I look forward to ordering those and having a read for my children. It's funny because one of my questions is about anger, and you mentioned your story. It's exactly what happened to my son the other day. Since no one have a question yet, I will ask. Is the other day he was building a fort, and his best friend came over and play. And Abby, my little daughter, she's 2. She was also there playing, and apparently he turned away and did something else, and then his whole fort was basically knocked down. And he blamed his best friend, who said to him, so his best friend said, it wasn't me, it was your little sister who did it. And my son Tyson said, no, it was you. And then he kept on blaming his best friend, and his best friend got so angry that he knocked everything down. And then they had this huge meltdown and tantrum. And for us as parents, for me, you know, I guess right then and there, because I wanted to speak to both kids at the same time, which is my son and his best friend, we had to kind of separate them a little bit. But I'm just curious, in that situation, what would be your best advice on how best to handle that?
That's interesting, because that's exactly the story, except Patrick did not go ballistic. And like, they found, actually it was Henry who misplaced his raspberries before he took a nap, and he just woke up and didn't know where it was. So it's basically jumping to assumptions, like to conclusions. Yes. And stuff like that, and how to navigate through that. But in that situation, your situation, I would say the best approach would be to, it's obviously a huge miscommunication.
Yes.
And it's all about assumptions. And for them to, obviously, you have to de-escalate the situation, you know, because their energy was already spent destroying the place. So get them on the same level, and that's when you introduce the concept of, I need to know your story, you know, and then I want to hear your side of the story. And you got to set boundaries. I want to hear both sides. And you're going to hear that, you're going to hear like the connection. They're saying either the same thing, they're probably saying the same thing, and it's all based on assumptions. And then that's when you start bringing in the feelings. That's when you're like, so how does that make you feel when somebody does that? And I say this in the book, when like, if you believe somebody did something and you find out that it was wrong, how does that make you feel? Because they remember that feeling of going, I just jumped to conclusion. I didn't like that. It was a bad feeling. I wouldn't want that for me. You know what I mean? But it's all about de-escalating the situation. And once you can do that, you start talking about the feelings and the emotions. You have to make the connection with them. And they may not be in the right space or right frame of mind at that moment, you know? They may need to go get another snack to like calm themselves down. And guess what? When they start eating that snack together, all of a sudden they forget about it. But nobody was cleaning it up, right?
Right. Well, thank you so much, Renee, for answering that. We do have Nguyen, who have another question as well, too. What is your take on screen time and emotional intelligence? Oh, that's big.
Yes. Okay, so everybody is saying screen time is like the worst, right? Research has shown that it's not necessarily true. It depends on the boundaries that you set, obviously. I mean, heck, if it was really bad, would we be doing virtual learning right now? It's the amount of time you have to set boundaries for. But even with my son, who's in 3rd grade, I have a 3rd grader, an 8th grader, and a senior in high school. So my day is crazy. And I am not a teacher. Like, no. And I'm not a stay-at-home mom, so I'm going crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I respect all teachers and stay-at-home moms and everything out there. But screen time is important because to increase our emotional intelligence with screen time, like I said, you have to set boundaries, but you have to have those conversations afterwards. It's important because, and I'm not talking about school, I'm assuming you're talking about like anything like games and stuff like that. It's fine to socially connect with games. It's fine, it is. But you have to have that conversation with your child afterwards about that game. And that's something we don't do as parents because unfortunately, we're busy too, so we're like, here, just play the game and move on. And then when you take the game away from them because it's bedtime, it's like meltdown city, right? It's like you just took away their kidney. They're freaking out. So sit with them, not right before bed, but give them a boundary. Give them like, hey, you got 2 hours or an hour, depending on their age, whatever, and say, hey, how was that game? What did you do? Have that conversation with them. And then like, do you play with anybody? Oh, yeah, I played with Jim and Sarah or whatever, you know, all these people that have these weird names that like, I played with Rock Rocket, you know, like who's Rock Rocket? And then what did y'all talk about? Because they do those chat rooms and they talk, you know, you've seen those YouTubers who talk all the time. And then start talking to them and setting those boundaries because I know I sound like I'm rambling, but I'm trying to get to the point here for real. The screen time and the connections with people are important. Don't take that away from them. Just be hypersensitive to it as a parent. Just set those boundaries with time limits and make sure you know who they're talking to. But you will find that when you have these conversations with your children and about who they're playing with, they are actually think they are their true friends sometimes because they've been playing games with them this entire time. And you're like, where are they from? You know, like how old are they? But like my son, he'll start talking about little things such as, yeah, Rock Rocket, believe me, that's the name. Rock Rocket was angry and he yelled at me on the thing. I'm like, oh. I'm like, first of all, I'm like, oh, protective mode, problem solver. Who is this Rock Rocket? I'm logging in right now and I'm saving the day, right? But then I can't do that. I can't be reactive because then he wouldn't come to me if I did that, right? He would shut down. I didn't provide that safe space. So I say, what was he angry at you about? Oh, I killed one of his buddies, or I stole one of his, something like they steal things, and I don't even know if it's productive in society, but that's when you have that conversation with them and talk to them about and how to navigate through emotions. Okay, well, if he did that, how'd that make you feel? How'd that make you feel? What would you do differently? Well, I'm not going to be Rock Rocket's friend. Okay, well, we both won at that point, but it's a long-winded answer, but just be upfront with your kids, set boundaries, and talk to them after they play a game. Because once you start talking to them afterwards, you're going to see those meltdowns. I promise you're going to see those meltdowns decrease. I've lived through it. I'm still living through it.
We have another question. What tips do you have for family with toddlers who haven't started talking yet, besides story time?
Yes. Obviously, I'm the number one to me is story time, is reading. Remember, kids are going to mimic you. No matter what you do, they are watching your every move, regardless if you think so or not. So if you have a toddler who hasn't started talking yet, just be self-aware of yourself. Be self-aware. It's so important because when you react, they're going to react. And then guess what? When they react, you say, stop, stop, stop. And they're just like, what? You did it in their head. Like, I don't understand what's going on. Right. And it's like those parents who, like your spouse comes up to you and they're like, what's wrong? And the world is caving in and you just don't like anybody, including your spouse at that moment. And they're like, what's wrong? And you're like, I'm fine. You're not fine, right? Everybody knows you're not fine. But we think that we do that to our children too. So watch how they are managing their emotions as well, because that's a direct reflection on you. I hate to say it. It's like putting a mirror, especially for toddlers who do not speak. So just be very hypersensitive. Story time is important. Encourage that play. Remember I said under 6 years old? Play, imagination. Get down on all fours and let them get on your back. Do something. Pretend you're a horse. Nobody's filming you. I don't think. I don't know you in your house, but do make that exploratory imaginative play. It's important. I hope that kind of hits home a little bit. It's difficult sometimes because they can't speak. And then when they speak, you're like, stop speaking.
Pretty tough. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very tough being a parent.
Yeah. I always say parenting is like running a marathon until you die. It's like you're just continuously running this marathon. You may or may not be able to stop for water.
Thank you.
Renee, for the toddlers that have not been able to speak yet, the key is playing, right? Like because they mimic you. So playing with them.
Yes. Doing those facial expressions, all those facial expressions. Go be theatrical. This is your chance for an Emmy Award. Like if you drop something, go, oh, you know what I mean? But you want to encourage those emotions. I promise you they're not going to go like crazy and you're like they're not going to be so theatrical at the age of 8 because you were. They're not going to be like that. And it's fun. It's fun. You're teaching them instead of going, I dropped something on my toe. I'm going to pretend like it didn't hurt because I'm trying to be, the sage on the stage. It hurt. Tell them it hurt.
There's another question. My son is 4, and I haven't been the best example of managing my emotions. Dog out him. It's too late to help him with his EI and get him to manage his emotions better. I'm working with a medical profession now, so think I'll get it better. Is it too
Yeah,
late?
I think they meant to say, is it too late? Or do you think it's a little late to help him with his EI?
Is this the 4-year-old or the son or the father?
I guess you can say both.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess it really doesn't matter because no, it's not too late. It is not too late. I promise you. I have clients I work with who even have PTSD and can't manage their emotions well. And I help them navigate through that. And guess what? I promise you, Jose, if this is you, it's not really so much your emotions, it's your communication that's causing the emotion. That's really what it is. And there's that vulnerability there. So if you are already self-aware, and I'm just assuming that you're saying it's too late for you, it's that right there is that's just society's. It's just judgment, and it's not. And that self-awareness is the first step, as everybody knows. And that just shows some people will come to me going, I have no EI whatsoever. I'm like, you have a little hint of it. Everybody has some sort of it. But they're like, no, I have no empathy. I'm like, okay, well, I think you do, but you just probably not as great as you want it. But yes, you have to be careful of that, Jose. So, and I can work with you on that too. I'm not, with COVID and stuff, I'm always giving free advice and counseling sessions because it's so stressful right now and I want to give back. So if you want to reach out to me, yes, I can help you. And your 4-year-old, well, obviously it's not too late for them, you know? So you have to work on you first before you can help manage and navigate the emotions within your son.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't do that as parents. We do it the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Renee. I will, I'll text in here your email address. So Jose,
Okay.
you can get that and email Renee directly.
Okay.
There is another question. How to use EI for develop a passion of learning for a child?
Oh, that's a good one. Gosh, because we always want our little ones to learn, right? We always want them to have a better life than us, and we want them to be able to navigate, you know. And we all know that when we had our children, they weren't born with a guide to do anything. So it's like we want to be that guide for them, but it's not the case. Reading. I can't say it enough. I feel like as a society, we have stopped doing that so much. If you read to your children at a young age and you allow them to read it back to you, and that's why with my books, I didn't want a book that goes, okay, what was the moral of the story? What was the moral of the story? Well, you know, I wanted something where they would understand the moral of the story on each page, because to identify and have that conversation throughout. So the passion of learning, read to them, let them read to you, use those facial expressions, always ask the question to your child, why? Why? So that why is so powerful, because they will say something like, I was angry, you know, when they're reading a book. I can't believe the spider died in Charlotte's Web. You know what I mean? Like, that's so mean, but they don't understand the concept behind it. And then just say, why? Why are you so sad? So they can help identify their emotions. You're helping them make the connection with the empathy, right? You're helping them to manage their emotions by self-regulations. And then you ask the question, what would you do? What would you do if you were da-da-da? And then that teaches the decision-making, the critical reasoning. That's it. It is so simple, but we give our kids a book and we're like, go read. Okay, what was the moral of the story? Okay, move on, go to bed. You see, we don't take the time to plant those seeds. I know some of you are like, yes, I do. You probably do. I'm just generalizing here.
We have another question, but now it's at 8 o'clock. Would you mind taking more questions, Dr. Skelton?
No, yeah, I don't mind.
Okay.
I don't mind.
So thoughts on emotional intelligence does or doesn't translate to all cultures, especially in a multicultural society that we're living now?
Yeah, so It does. It's just the delivery and perception of it that differs. Emotional intelligence is transcendent. It goes all across cultures. It's just how it's perceived and delivered has to be adapted based on the culture. I mean, I deployed to the Middle East several times in my military career, and things I would do in the United States, I wouldn't go to Iraq and be like, hey, I'm like with the facial expressions, because I can't even look at them in the eyeballs, you know, as a woman. So yes, you have to adapt. But the whole premise behind, you know, the pillars of emotional intelligence with decision-making, self-regulation, those are solid. Like I said, they're transcendent. It's just, like I said, it has to be delivered it has to be delivered a different way based on that culture. I mean, everybody has a heart and everybody's human, so.
Yeah, emotions belong to human being, right? So
Yes.
as long as we are human beings, we have it's just how you express the emotions and how do you relate the other people emotion based on the understanding of the culture or the background of the other person. That makes sense.
Yes, because some people are don't show emotion. But guess what? They still have it. They still have it.
They still don't show.
Right. Like,
yeah.
I don't have any. I'm not emotional. I am not emotional. You're being emotional right now. So you have emotion, you know. I'm just throwing that out there.
I love your facial expression, Renee.
I know. Somebody told me, one of my commanders in the military says I have Tourette's of the face. Really?
This is so awesome. This is so awesome. And again, for those books, we will send you the link in the presentation so that if anybody want to purchase the books, I found it's really interesting and it's helpful because nowadays there are not many children books that teach children to develop their own emotional intelligence. So thank you, Renee, for your contribution. I look forward to seeing more books and even like more product to teach the kids and parents.
Well,
For sure. Yes. Well, yes, Jen, just to honor everyone's time, especially those that have to leave. Once again, thank you so much. Definitely. Yes, Mighty said, thank you so much. Enjoy the session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And I hope that we all, learned something from that. And look out for our email. We will be sending out an email just to say thank you and to send you different links, resources as well. And I sent a text in the chat of Renee's email. So if anyone want to directly contact Renee, please do so. And that's it. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your insights, Renee. And hopefully everyone will take some of the tips and apply just slowly, a few things at a time. That's what I'm going to do as well. Yes. And please stay tuned as we will have future events coming up as well too.
Okay. Thank you so much, Renee, for all of this wonderful information. And our sincere wish to all the audience, you're going to apply some of these discussion today into so please give a round of applause for our speaker. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm all clapping for myself.
Thank you so much. And now you can all turn on the mic and say bye. And we will end the section. Thank you for coming and joining us. We will send you the recording for this event. Thank you. Thank you. Everybody say thank you. That's great. All right.
Nice.
Yes.
They're like, I'm going to show my empathy.
I can't wait for the next one. So the next one is going to be about grief, right? Like what do you have a plan for it?
I just have to get it out. My illustrator keeps asking me as well. It's about, like I said, it's about Roxy the rabbit. She's my last character because I wanted 3 boys and 3 girls, even though they're like, so Roxy the rabbit. And everybody's like, you should name it Renee. I'm like, really? Renee the rabbit? So Roxy the rabbit goes to the Moonlight Festival. It's at Big Rock. And Henry goes on an adventure, and he's going to meet all of his friends. So all the friends come together at the end, and he finds Roxy the rabbit, like happy, but occasionally he's watching her, and she's like, she's happy, but you could tell there's something about her. So he's like making that connection. And eventually he goes up to her, and she's crying because she lost her mom last year.
Oh.
I'm not going to say she was run over or somebody hunted her or anything like that, but she lost her mom, and she would always go to this moon festival, you know, with her mom. And her mom, this is the first year she hasn't been with her mom, and she wants to be happy because to celebrate her life, but she doesn't understand why she's still so sad. She's trying her hardest and trying to suppress that and not allowing that grief to happen. And that's when one of Patrick's friends, or Patrick, not Henry, or no, Henry, it's actually Henry. Henry actually lost his friend, but it was a friend. So I'm touching on the peer of loss and also a family.
Wow.
So to make that connection.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Okay. We need to have a session talking about these books, you know?
Oh.
Yeah. But it's so good.
You are amazing. You and your team were amazing. I thank you for the opportunity, for real, for believing in me and supporting me. So that's really nice.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We will send you the recording soon. All right?
Okay.
Now,
all right, we'll be in touch.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Okay, yeah. Thank you.
All right.
Bye. Good night.